Yo, what's happening out there, guys? Welcome back, of course, to Rule of Two Review. Happy New Year out there to all of you. Luckily, this miserable year that has been 2016 is just about to be over, and I couldn't be more excited. But the good news is that I still am here with one last Nintendo-related video for the year. So after watching a video from Game Explain earlier today while I was working, I wanted to bring back the old topic of Amiibo and what could happen with Amiibo in their future now that we officially know what the Switch is. I believe the last time I personally talked about Amiibo was when we were still wondering about the NX, which almost could seem like an eternity ago, which is really kind of funny. But of course, that was only a couple of months ago that we learned that the NX was indeed the Nintendo Switch and what's happening there. But up until that point, it was the NX. It was a big thing of mystery. There was all these rumors. There was all these fake, 3D printed controllers and all these leaked things and this and that. All that stuff was happening. And during that time, I started to wonder, well, what's going on with Amiibo in the Wii U? We know the Wii U's getting phased out. Amiibo were this big hot thing for a year or so. Then they were fading. Now we know that there's Amiibo support for Zelda Breath of the Wild. And were they going to have some sort of place in the NX's future? Now we know that the Switch is what Nintendo is going to be releasing in March. So it kind of got me thinking again also based on some of the recaps of 2016 discussing Amiibo that I heard Game Explain talk about today as well. How are Amiibo going to fit into the Switch's future? We know Nintendo is going to be using them in some capacity with the Switch, mostly because of Breath of the Wild. But is there going to be any opportunity for Nintendo to maybe save Amiibo or bring them back into the forefront? So that's the real crux of the question that I'm asking today. With the Switch, is there an opportunity for Nintendo to do more with Amiibo and maybe fully deliver on the promise? Because like I said, really the Amiibo hype train and the wave of Amiibo has really subsided the last year, which, makes sense to me, honestly, because Nintendo stopped really making those things relevant. And I like Amiibo for what they are. I like them conceptually. Like on paper, I think the idea of Amiibo is cool. And if you've been following me long enough, I have like 14 or 15 Amiibo, and that's about it. Some people have like 50 or even all of them. I didn't get any of the special edition ones. I just have about 14 of the original Smash Brothers line, and that's about it. And I was into them at first. I used them for a few games, mostly like Hyrule Warriors when that was really brand new, because I loved that game so much, and Amiibo were new at that time, and so I was using all of my Zelda Amiibo and Hyrule Warriors. I never even tried them in Smash Brothers. I haven't used them for any 3DS games. So, I'm someone who kind of has ridden the wave of Amiibo where they first came out and it was really exciting and I got into them a little bit. But then as the hype died down and the implementation of them died down, so did my interest, and it seems so did most people's. Now, when we talk about the future of Amiibo coming from Nintendo and with the Switch, it's interesting because I kind of could see it going either way. Some people might want to say, well, Breath of the Wild has the special edition Zelda Amiibo coming out, and they're going to work with the brand new Zelda game that looks amazing, and we're all waiting for, and we're all going to play. So, of course, everyone's going to buy those Zelda Amiibo and use those in that game, not to mention the Twilight Princess Amiibo, the Wolf Link that we all have, of course, and that's going to be able to work with Breath of the Wild, and that's very exciting. And so, obviously, not only will this be a future line of Amiibo that's going to sell pretty well, it also confirms that Amiibo support obviously does exist with the Switch, which is cool and does make me excited. I'm glad to see that stuff. But I don't know that that Breath of the Wild and its Amiibo support and the specific Amiibo are necessarily proof that Nintendo is continuing strong Amiibo support and a strong push for Amiibo, or that Amiibo are going to suddenly start to become really popular and successful again. It's a good sign, and it's a good first step, absolutely. And hey, I'll be the first to admit, I'm definitely interested in those Amiibo. I actually want to get, I think there was like a Toon Zelda, the Tetris Zelda from Wind Waker that just released. I do really want to get that one. And then, the Breath of the Wild ones, they look great. So I'm certainly interested in them and I may pick them up. But that scenario, that game and those Amiibo, I don't think are necessarily going to be saving, quote unquote, saving Amiibo. I think that something more has to happen here. So I feel like I could see a path where with the Zelda Amiibo for Breath of the Wild, Nintendo may look at how those things do, how they sell, and how people are using them, and what the implementation is really giving people. You can cook things fast, or get a bunch of rupees or something, drop a bunch of food in front of you, stuff like that. If people really get into the implementation of that game, and if that helps them, kind of see more of a market to further Amiibo, or if they're going to realize, well, they sold okay, people aren't really using them, maybe it's not anything we need to keep spending our time on. Maybe that hype train is come and gone, and there's no reason for us to invest time, energy, and money in it if it's not really going to pan out monetarily. And that would be smart of them to look at it that way if, in fact, the Zelda Amiibo don't really take off. But I also think that there's an opportunity for Nintendo to still, this is really the thing that I wanted to talk about. I think that there's an opportunity for Nintendo to make that quintessential Nintendo-specific awesome experience that is revolving around the use of Amiibo. Which is like, what Disney Infinity and Skylanders did. We've all talked about it. We know that Nintendo has somewhere in their workshop, in that bunker that's like hundreds of miles below the surface where they work on all their secret projects of the Nintendo headquarters. They have some tool in their workshop that will allow them to make this perfect Nintendo game that is going to revolve around the use of Amiibo, the purchasing of Amiibo, and become the Nintendo version of what Skylanders and Disney Infinity was. I know that Nintendo has that in them. And, we saw like an attempt, a really feeble and not very good attempt at this with the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. And it's interesting when I look at that game, A, as someone who's not an Animal Crossing fan, and B, as someone who really didn't understand what they were I understand what they were trying to do, but didn't think that they understood what they were trying to do. I saw that game as almost the right idea. Take a really established Nintendo property that is kind of built on the premise of unique, cute, cuddly, toy-friendly characters that everyone loves and that appeal to, a lot of young people as well as the older people who I know who also love Animal Crossing. And you make the gameplay of this new game within this established series revolve around the idea of collecting these real-life Amiibo figures and make it work within this new gameplay mechanic. The idea on paper was solid. The problem was twofold. One is they used Animal Crossing, which people didn't want that in an Animal Crossing game. They wanted an actual Animal Crossing game. And two was the fact that it was just a dumb board game that no one was really interested in. So they failed on how they used the IP, and they failed on the gameplay premise that revolved around people purchasing Amiibo. So again, on paper, the idea was very sound, and I think it's something Nintendo could still do correctly. And the whole thing fell apart, and it's too bad, because I really do think that there was something there. But when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, man, I don't really know what Nintendo could do. I'm curious to see how the Breath of the Wild things plays out, as I touched on in the beginning of the video. I do think there's an opportunity there. I do think that those are going to do pretty well, mostly because they're Zelda, and because that brand new game comes out, and everyone's going to be excited for it. So yeah, they're going to do pretty well. But is that going to be the turning point for Amiibo? I don't quite know, but I think that Nintendo may look at how the Amiibo situation for Breath of the Wild plays out and help them, be one of the many factors that they look over when determining their future decisions with Amiibo. What I like to think is that somewhere in the future of the Nintendo Switch, there is something that works perfectly for the fact that the system, the Switch itself, is mobile. And you have the ability to take your console with you wherever you go, over to your friend's house, along with maybe a collection of Amiibo toys that are meant to work with your version of this game and your friend's version of this game, and your Switches are working together and everyone's Amiibo are working together. And it's this Nintendo thing. It's almost like this. What I've envisioned, I've never really put this to words in a video. What I've envisioned is a Nintendo Universe kind of game where it's kind of like a Nintendo. How would I describe? Now I'm struggling to describe this. Think of like an adventure, like a 3D third-person adventure game set in a huge open world. That's like the 3D Zelda version of a Smash Brothers. So it's like how you would play a Zelda game with this big open world, and you run around and you do things, and there's side quests and there's towns and whatever. But it's in a universe where like Super Smash Brothers would be set, kind of like what the Subspace Emissary was, if you could turn that into like a third-person open world experience. That to me is the perfect other than a Pokemon game, I should say. That's the perfect version of a Nintendo Amiibo game that could work on the Switch. Make it Nintendo Universe, and it's just all the Nintendo characters and properties and IPs and villains and all this stuff thrown into one big third-person open world kind of experience. And I think that could be amazing. It could be really fun, and it could be something that would sell people on Amiibo again. And all of a sudden, Nintendo would have this, ridiculous excuse to make all these brand new lines of Amiibos of all the same characters that they've already created Smash Brothers Amiibo for. And, it might seem kind of ridiculous and like kind of pushing the consumer for more money and just sort of gouging us. But, that's business. That's how these things work. It's how Nintendo works. They want to make money. If they have something that they can, for lack of a better term, abuse and get a lot more money from their consumer, they're going to do that. They have a right to do that. And I think that if anything, if we get a fun game out of it, then it's fine. It's probably not anything I would even really play or buy, but I do think it's the kind of concept that could bring Amiibo back into the forefront, make sense for the Nintendo Switch, make sense for Nintendo, make a lot of people happy, again, if the game is good, and it probably would be good because Nintendo makes really good games. And then Nintendo's making so much more money because not only are they selling all the software of this Nintendo Universe game for $60 a pop, but all of a sudden, here's, 20 brand new Amiibo that people can start purchasing and using within that game, the same way like the Skylanders figures work for that game. And then everyone wins, and people get a game that they enjoy, they get to collect figures that they like, and Nintendo makes a ridiculous crap ton of freaking money. So those are just some of my ideas and what I was thinking about when I heard Game Explain recapping 2016, and they brought up a little bit of the Amiibo stuff and how that kind of faded at the end of the year last year, and only a few things happened this year that didn't really seem to catch on the way Amiibo was 2 years ago. And I was like, gosh, I wonder if Amiibo has a future. Is the Switch going to be... Is it going to confirm the death of Amiibo, or are they going to find a way to reinvigorate Amiibo with the release of the Switch? All these different things. What's the perfect Switch game? How will the Zelda Breath of the Wild Amiibo do? All this stuff. And it's really interesting. And, I don't really care much for Amiibo now, but I still would love to see them come back and be successful for Nintendo, especially in a way that makes people and gamers happy and satisfied. I don't want them to do another Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival where it just makes people angry and pissed off and wastes a really good concept. I want Nintendo to deliver on it properly so that A, they make money, and B, it makes the consumer and the Nintendo fan happy. And I think that that's possible. I think the Switch is going to be this amazing reset period for Nintendo where they might be able to make something like this work. And Nintendo, if you use my Nintendo Universe idea, you can have it for free. I'm happy to give you that. So anyway, that's my ideas and the video for today. So tell me what you guys think about Amiibo. Are you sick of them? Do you miss them? Are they dead to you? Or does Nintendo have an opportunity with the Switch to bring them back and make them successful again? Happy New Year to you guys, of course. Very excited to have 2016 ending. It's been a roller coaster crazy year. I have not had the best year. A lot of people haven't had the best year. So I'm really excited for what 2017 is going to bring. And hell, if anything, we're getting a brand new Nintendo console in the first 3 months. How freaking amazing is that? So tell me what you guys think about Amiibo and Nintendo on the Switch below. Thanks, of course, for tuning in. Have yourselves a very happy and safe New Year. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video.